joining us today for another LENSEC live session. In today's session, we will be discussing Prospective VMS and how our platform can be used in the current remote environment that a lot of us find ourselves in today. My name is Michael Trask. I'm the Director of Sales for North America with LENSEC, and I am joined by originally Alman Dedelia, but Alman, a Senior Applications Engineer with us, is tied up assisting an integrator partner of ours with the job. So we now have Jeff Kellick. Jeff, if you want to introduce yourself to everyone today.
Sure. Thank you, Michael. Jeff Kellick. I'm our Chief Product Officer here at LENSEC. I'm happy to join you. Again, as Michael indicated, Alman's tied up today, so I got pulled in off the bench for this live stream today.
Well, hopefully you get the sixth man award. We'll see how that works out. Like I said at the beginning of the intro, with the COVID-19 pandemic going on today, a lot of us are finding ourselves being asked to work remotely and shelter in place for many weeks at a time. So this is a new situation for a lot of us. For us at LENSEC, we are used to working in remote offices and using some of those tools that are browser-based tools to be able to continue to work collaboratively and to get projects done. But we wanted to spend a little bit of time to talk about how Prospective VMS is unique in its setup and how it can assist you and end users and integrators alike in this current environment. Some of you, first of all, watching today may not be aware that Prospective VMS is written completely in HTML5. What is HTML5? Jeff, you have the answer to that?
HTML5 is just an evolution of writing applications in a browser-based environment. What's nice about the standard that is HTML5 is that it's plug-in less, that you don't need to have an ActiveX control or Silverlight or Flash running. Those types of features that used to only be available by these plugins for browsers are now native to the browser itself through this standard. So us writing to that, and we launched our first HTML5 application in 2017, us writing to that limits the need for us to have any of those plugins.
Yeah, that's correct, Jeff. And that is the code that all modern web pages and internet browsers are how they're written today. So this means that any user that has access to an internet browser and has user credentials to access the Prospective VMS application can do so from anywhere in the world. Our software does not require, as Jeff mentioned, it doesn't require the installation of any thick or thin clients on any device that an end user may be using. Many end users today have multiple devices, right? They have a laptop, they have a tablet, maybe they have an actual workstation that they then dock their laptop in. Everyone carries around mobile devices. So where this really benefits the installers and the end users, we're taking advantage of an application that is already on every one of those devices, and that is the internet browser. So you don't need to take advantage. You don't need to worry about opening up or loading any additional programs onto the computer. The IT department, which currently right now, IT departments are being asked to do a lot. This has happened so quickly, and if your work environment is not a situation where they were prepared for this, well, their resources are already being stretched thin. So you don't want to have to maybe worry about them having to issue maybe a new laptop that you can take home to work remotely. In our environment, all you have to do is go home, use the computer of your choice that you already have at home. Access that by opening up the internet browser that you prefer to use at home and go to the host name location of your of Prospective VMS. So what we're sharing on the screen right now is we opened up Chrome, went to demo.lensec.com. That's the host name of our operational system on the first floor of our corporate headquarters in Houston. I'm coming to you today from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at my house in Pittsburgh. Jeff is also joining us from his house remotely, also in Pittsburgh, but we are now accessing through Chrome the live version of our demo site in Houston, Texas. and I have my permissions pulled up there. So I'm just going to log in, and that quickly I'm going to be able to be entered into our system. So I'm now accessing our system. I can do all the features and functions that my permissions allow me to do within Prospective VMS. And once again, Prospective VMS is a user permission-based system. So Jeff, why don't you maybe take a few minutes and discuss the process and how this would work in certain environments. Obviously, we have our host in Houston, our server being available just by typing in a host name. But can you explain, how that works? And then maybe also take a little time and maybe discussing some other environments. Maybe people have to access their work environments via a VPN, virtual private network.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. You're right on that. One of the things that we look for when we created an application was to give it the flexibility to be operable in any environment, any PC environment, so that you can launch it from any of those browsers Michael talked about. But at the same time, you want to be secure on your network. So some of our customers have their entire security surveillance network on its own private LAN, its own private network. And therefore, to access that, you can't access that from the World Wide Web. You can't access it just by going to hostname like we are today. Rather, you would connect in through a VPN tool, whether that's Cisco or FortiClient or some other tool that your IT department is providing. That gets you access to the network. And once you're inside that network, then you'll be using your browser to access the client. Michael mentioned earlier about kind of lessening the burden on the IT professionals, and Prospective absolutely does that. Even if you're connecting in through a VPN, you do not have to install separate software on your device at home. One of the challenges that we have to face when working remotely is not having access to all of the PCs, our desktops and other machines at our facilities. So a lot of times we're asking employees to use their home devices here in this type of scenario. So the IT department needs to set up the VPN under that scenario for you. But then once that's set up, all they're doing is, again, they're just leveraging their browser. The other scenario, of course, is just connecting directly. Some users, some end users, some facilities, some organizations like us at LENSEC have their application available publicly. You still want to enable a layer of security for that. And in this case, we're using the ability, as we log in here, to use either an open or an SSL site. And if I use an SSL site, I'm going to change that just by typing HTTPS and then demo.lensec.com. So that SSL security adds another layer to it. And so now you can see we're actually secure here in that site. So another layer of security that's added at the server. It's authenticating with a certificate at the server side. Okay. So those are a couple of brief scenarios, Michael, and we can talk more as we go throughout the session.
Yeah, and so how else does this work remotely? I want to just take something, some people watching this today, end users or people that use a different system. Now, I want to jump in real quick to our maps, and I want to just give some examples on how we can also use the system remotely. Maybe you still have deliveries. Maybe you have deliveries coming to your office, but like many of us are a shelter at home, work from home remotely. They don't want anyone in the office whatsoever. Well, that's UPS doesn't know, or the mail doesn't know, or someone doesn't know who needs to come into that office. So, I want to just show you how, with the power of Prospective, you have the ability also to bring in bidirectional access control, and then using the cameras as well as using the access control from sitting here remotely in Pittsburgh. If somebody rings a bell at the front desk or at the front door to come into our building, I can be notified. That screen will pull up on my instance of Prospective VMS. It'll change my interface. While that's happening, I can view who it is. I can remotely unlock that door sitting here in Pittsburgh, let them bring the package in, set it down, watch them leave. So Here on the maps module, I can hover over this camera and, I can just drag and drop that down here to the bottom of our, what we call our camera dock. And then Jeff's got that for me. So he's pulled that over into our camera view. So here I am looking at the entrance to our lobby in Houston. And because we have access control connected to this, you'll see down here, there's this door control. I can click this button and it brings up the main entrance. And then I just click on the main entrance. Now, once again, this is a user permission-based system. I have full permission, so I have the ability to permanently unlock that door, permanently lock it, or temporarily pulse it, which is the equivalent of somebody, presenting their card to the reader and unlocking the door, and it'll lock after they do that. So here's a perfect example how we get the delivery comes, they call us, I pull the system up, unlock the door, they set it inside the door or set it on the reception desk there. I watch them do all of that. I watch them turn around and walk back out of the door, and then I can lock the door. So that is something that can be done completely remotely. So you don't have to worry about packages being left outside your door and people potentially coming by and taking those deliveries. More importantly, in today's environment, you don't have to put an employee at risk, have them get in their car, go out, drive down to the office to collect all the packages that maybe have been delivered in the day. And now they maybe put themselves in an environment where they could put themselves at risk at catching, the COVID-19 virus. So there's nice tools that are already built in with certain access control partners of ours. So Jeff, do you want to talk about also how this type of a remote platform would also assist integration partners? Now, would they, would I be able to access and work on this system remotely if I'm an administrator of the system, whether I'm an end user administrator or if I might be an integrator that has administration rights to the system?
That's a great point, Michael. For those watching that are systems integrators out there and they're thinking about how you're going to leverage the remote capability of this. Again, when I'm connected in here remotely from Pittsburgh and immediately get access to the administration, make changes to camera settings, camera configurations directly from in here. So if we needed to make a modification to a camera, maybe apply it to a map, do these last minute configurations, you do not have to be on site. So your field technicians are often considered essential employees as they're getting out doing this work for your end users, making sure that they'll have remote access, remote surveillance to their property and personnel. Your team members do not necessarily have to be on site. If they have access to the server, whether that is over a public connection, whether that is through a VPN, or even using a tool such as TeamViewer or some other type of remote connectivity, with their login credentials, they're going to have access to do all this configuration. And moreover, everything that they do in the system is audit trailed. So you can go back to your customer, your end user, and illustrate all the work that was done in this remote work environment.
Yeah, that's great, Jeff. And there's multiple applications on this. Jeff talked about maybe having to make some changes or add certain things, but with security integrators being considered an essential business today and being able to perform their duties, we have a customer, an end user client through an integrator partner of ours that is a very large school district. The state is in shutdown, but they have gotten approval from the state to still allow people, they've gotten a waiver to allow the integrator partner to be in their building to be continuing to work on the solution. So this partner and the actual end user, shared a story with us that this remote ability has worked great because they don't want, the school district has said they don't want anybody on site, not even the security team. So the security team is able to just open up a computer at home, sign in remotely to the system. They're able to then monitor to make sure that all employees within the district are adhering to the rule that no one is supposed to be on property at all. They're also able to monitor their outside cameras, make sure kids aren't at the playing playgrounds. They're not playing pickup basketball games, and then therefore, not keeping social distancing. So they can monitor all of that remotely from home. And they've talked about how great that's been for them. They also, with that waiver, the integration partner has been able to go in and continue to do work, whether it's adding cameras, maybe replacing some cameras, and the security team, they're able to remotely monitor through all of the other cameras within those areas to make sure that those integrators are staying in the areas and doing what they're supposed to be doing, so that they're continuing to get work done, even in an environment that we find ourselves in today. Once again, this didn't involve the IT department issuing laptops that had to be set up a certain way and then provided to the security team to take home with them. They had computers at home, so they could just use any internet browser of their choice at home. Excuse me. And it allowed the IT department, which may in this case already be a little stretched thin, making sure all of those teachers are set up in an environment that they can continue to teach and educate the kids. So PVMS can be rapidly deployed even into today's environment. Jeff, if you can maybe briefly discuss that process of the rapid deployment of prospective VMS.
Sure thing. Yeah, one of the very nice features, again, when we talk about having a call that's coming in maybe today, maybe this week, asking, hey, we need some cameras on our facility now so that our staff is not going to be there. It needs to be monitored, needs to be secured. How quickly can we do this? Installing the cameras, most systems integrators out there are very well adept to install cameras within a day or two, depending on what type of situation it is. And then deploying prospective VMS itself is very simple. It's about installing an application on a web server, and then again, no installation for any clients. So you may have 10, you may have 20, you may have 50 staff that are spread out all over your city. They're all working from home. The integrator does not have to go and touch their laptops. They don't have to create a remote connection to all of those machines. Once they install it on the web server, all of those clients can access it directly on their own without any support or need from the integrator to do so. Another nice thing that we've done with our integrator partners and our end users is created an online training tool so they can direct their end customers directly to the LENSEC Online Academy, and those users can learn about the system while they're remote, while they're working from home. So it's a great way to get something installed quickly and without having to access those remote sites, those remote client PCs.
Yeah, Jeff, and just to further that point as well, if even if it's a brand new deployment, someone says, hey, our system went down, we needed a new deployment. You get the server, you can do all of the setup remotely. If you have the server on site, maybe you're working at your the integrations partner's office, you can do all the setup, add the cameras, add the models, add the IP addresses, all of those items. And then the cameras are marked as not active at the time being. And then you take that server on site, you connect it onto the switch, and then you do a quick bulk edit for every single camera that you have there. And you use a tool we have within our administration to bulk edit all of those cameras at one time to make them active. And then the cameras should all be working. So you can do all of this information remotely, not on site. If you have a server that you're installing it on and then bring the server on site, or if the infrastructure already has a server and you have remote access to that server, you can do all of that setup with no one being on site, and then do the final tweaks of bringing all the cameras up once you go on site.
That's a great point too, Michael. The fact that you can configure this and program this on a server that they have existing. And then if at some point when things are back to normal, they want to transition this over to another machine, they can do so just by transferring that database and installing the application. So you don't lose any of the configuration work that you've already done. Matter of fact, we can even help you. There are tools within the software for transitioning the archives, or what we call recordings, from one server to the other. So there's a lot of thoughts that we put into this for that easy deployment and then also an easy migration to a more permanent server once that's in place.
Yeah, that's great, Jeff. Once again, very easy, flexible in an ever-changing environment. As we know, this situation came on so quickly, and people really weren't prepared maybe to be everyone having to work remotely so quickly. So there have been some unique challenges there. But just to reiterate, the way our architecture and the coding of our software, how it's set up, it already lends itself to work in that environment, similar to some of the browser-based programs that everyone is using in this new environment, whether it be Zoom, which we're coming to you live today via Zoom. So that's a browser-based system, Slack or Microsoft Teams. So there's a lot of applications out there that people are used to using in a browser-based solution. And that is what ours is. It's a true browser, 100% browser-based solution without any thick or thin clients, installed once on the server, and that is it. And then everyone uses an application that is already on every device that's out there. With that being said, once again, it's a permission-based system. So you can, that gives you a lot of flexibility, even with these ever-changing roles. Maybe some new responsibilities are being added to somebody now that they're working remotely. And maybe that example with that security team, maybe Jeff, you have permissions to only view certain cameras across certain schools within your whole district. But now that everyone's working remotely, maybe we need to give you some extra permissions to see some other cameras that normally you wouldn't have. So that there is a very simple way to change permissions. I think what we'll do is we'll discuss that in further detail next week. You find that your team members are having to take on additional responsibilities in this current environment. So we'll give you a little tease to next week. And I'm sure Jeff and some other people on the team will join next week, next Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Jeff, do you have any thoughts? Final thoughts?
I was just going to say, I think that's a great idea, Michael. I think we can certainly talk a little bit about permissions and how you can change those permissions as circumstances change. You know, there may be some temporary roles that you're assigning to some of your staff and personnel based on this type of situation and giving them enhanced access or removing some access. So absolutely, that's a great topic for next week.
And once again, that can all be administered remotely. Someone doesn't have to go necessarily on site to the server and go in there, because everything on our software, including the administration of the system, is done through the browser. So, yep. That'll wrap it up today. We've taken about 20 some minutes of your time, but I want to thank you for joining this LENSEC live session. On behalf of Jeff Kellick, I'm Michael Trask, and we ask that everyone remain safe. If you want to learn more about LENSEC and Prospective VMS, please visit us at lensec.com, and also you can go to lensec.com/live to view at a later date. This recording will be available, as well as some previous recording sessions that we've done. So thank you very much again, and be safe.